People knew Roger Moore as the great actor because of his natural charm and dedication to his craft. He was best known for his role as James Bond. Millions of people have been greatly affected by Moore's portrayal of Bond, no matter how much they like or dislike the character. So who was the real person who inspired the famous 007 unit? Moore talks about his time in Hollywood in his autobiography. He talks about his ties with famous people like Bette Davis and Frank Sinatra, as well as his least favorite co-stars. Come with us as we look into the interesting life story and drama behind the scenes of a Bond hero whose life was full of shocks. Between 1973 and 1985, 9 movies with Sir Roger Moore as James Bond came out. This made him even more of a legend as one of the artists who has played the famous spy the longest. Moore was born on October 14, 1922, in London. 1927, worked in movies and TV for a long time and did well. Moore was a popular actor before he became famous as James Bond. He played likable roles on hit TV shows like The Saint and Maverick, where he played Beau Maverick. He would have made a great James Bond because he was charming, smart, and stylish. Moore was famous for both his parts as James Bond and his work as a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. He brought a unique mix of charm and sophistication to the role. Because he helped people, he was made a knight in 2003. Even though Moore died on May 23, 2017, his work in entertainment and charity, as well as his fame as one of the best James Bond players, is still remembered and praised. The entertainment business was changed forever by Roger Moore's complicated web of friendships and disagreements before he died. During his lifetime, he wrote a number of autobiographies that were very interesting to read because they showed his personal and professional problems as well as his time working in Hollywood. Moore's book, My Word is My Bond, gives fans a close look into his personal life by sharing details about his life and talking about his friendships with famous people like Bette Davis and Frank Sinatra. Fans learn about the complicated world of Hollywood as he talks openly about the tough relationships he had with some of his co-stars. The next thing on the list is to look into Roger Moore's Hollywood ties and the co-stars he couldn't stand. Moore starts by talking about Peter Sellers. Even though Sellers was a huge star and a funny genius, he was surprisingly hard to get to know. He put on different masks to hide who he really was, but he didn't have any real, meaningful connections. According to Moore, he was a mysterious man who always wore a mask. Sellers was an interesting and complex person. For example, he admitted that seeing himself on film would be boring, which shows that he was worried about being open and honest. Moore, like many others, found Sellers' odd behavior both interesting and annoying. However, because he liked to disappear into his own world, Sellers was also a difficult co-star. One event in Sellers' life that showed how chaotic and unpredictable things could get. His third wife, Miranda Quarry, and him were on their vacation in the summer of 1970. The newlyweds were, by chance, on a romance trip to Cap Ferret in the south of France. Around the same time that Roger Moore was shooting The Persuaders for TV, this chance meeting set the stage for an unforgettable episode that showed the strange things that people often associate with Sellers. There was a drug raid, but it wasn't like any other. Roger Moore and Johnny Gold have known Leslie Breakus for a long time and are friends with him. Roger Moore and Peter Sellers played a joke on him. He opened the London Club Tramp, which is now famous all over the world. A customs police boat was set up to act like it was going to catch Brancusi and Gold for speeding while Moore and Sellers steered their boat around the Bay of Villeurbanne. The customs officers, acting like they found a few hundred cigarettes and bottles of scotch that Moore and Sellers had hidden on their yacht, made everyone laugh out loud. "Hey there, Peter Sellers," Johnny Gold yelled and waved a big white letter that was meant for him. This made everyone laugh even more. As soon as they got to beach, Johnny Gold gave Sellers the mysterious white package. When the Sellers opened it, they saw a lot of white powder and a note that said it was a wedding gift. Roger Moore has never been so close to getting arrested as he was during this risky but fun joke. That night, Sellers' completely illogical actions were shown to be what they were. Sellers was thrilled by what was inside the envelope. It was a surprise when Sellers excitedly asked Moore and the others to join him on a made-up trip around the harbor, thinking that his bed was a flying carpet. Sellers was crazy and liked to get lost in his own thoughts, so it was hard to connect with him on a real level. However, Moore and Sellers did seem to enjoy each other's company and laugh a lot. While making the 1985 movie A View to a Kill, Grace Jones and Roger Moore had a very rough time getting along. Jones played the evil Mayday. Grace Jones was very strong as Mayday on screen, but Roger Moore often got annoyed with her behavior outside of movies. There were problems on set because they had different ways of doing things. Jones was hard to work with because he had a strong personality and wasn't reliable, which went against Moore's image for being steady and conservative. Moore didn't like how his main ladies, like Jones, would spend so much time getting ready during breaks. They would quickly get their makeup bags, put on lipstick, and tweak their looks, which would cause shooting to be held up. Moore tried to keep these problems to a minimum by hiding their makeup. Sadly, this didn't work out because they had several replacements who cared more about how they looked than how well they could act. Moore didn't like Jones before she turned up the music loud in the next dressing room. Jones' loud, heavy metal music often got in the way of Moore's request for quiet. Moore kept telling Jones to turn down the noise, but Jones wouldn't listen. Moore got so angry after that he stormed into Jones' room and turned off her music. He then stormed back to his own room and threw a chair against the wall, making a permanent hole in it to show how angry he was. The result of their conversation was a memorable romantic scene that showed how different Moore and Jones's personalities were. Jones brought a big black dildo into the bed as a funny way to get ready for the scene. Moore, who always acts like a professional, saw the joke. Working with Jones, on the other hand, had clearly put his diplomatic skills to the test. In his diaries, Roger Moore writes about Lana Turner, who was one of his most important co-stars. Moore worked with many famous actors and actresses during his career, but the time he spent with Lana Turner stands out. Turner, who had been acting for a long time, gave Roger Moore some good advice while they were working on the historical film Diane in 1956. This was the start of their journey together. Because of how magnetic she was on screen, the legendary Turner showed Moore the right way to kiss. Moore felt sure of his skills because he had been married twice without a problem. He knew how to do things before Turner showed him a new way. He learned the value of fire from her without being pushed. Turner's strong personality showed through even in less romantic situations. She didn't put up with rudeness and showed signs of being strong and independent. One important event involved Edward Knopf, Diane's director. Turner telling Knopf in public to fuck off made a small argument into a big one. Knopf ran off the stage and went to Moore's caravan to find comfort. It was clear that the overwhelming reaction was upsetting them. Turner told Moore about how badly she was treated, and Moore paid attention to the fact that young artists often face power imbalances and are taken advantage of in Hollywood. Turner told them that she was getting back at people who had harmed her in the past. That moment in Vilches's life when he played Nick Nack in the 1974 James Bond movie was very important. Vilches got the part after living in his car and working as a rat trap in Los Angeles. He did well in both his career and his personal life after playing Scaramanga's faithful servant. Moore was honest about how he felt about Vilch's character. Moore says that he once told Vilches, "Don't touch me. You're sick," when Vilches pressed on touching him again. Moore made it clear that his comment had nothing to do with Vilches' height and everything to do with his strong libido. Moore brags about Vilches' sex adventures with women, many of whom were whores, and says Vilches has an odd attraction to women. Vilches admitted that he had been turned down for money offers on occasion, even though he said he had several sexual partners. While shooting in Hong Kong, he went to a lot of women's clubs. Use a light to help you find them. Moore was shocked by Vilches' bravado and promiscuity. Furthermore, Vilches bragged that he had been with 35 women while shooting when Moore asked about it. Moore's temper finally broke because of what Vilches did. Moore remembered how unpleasant it was to work with Vilches constantly touching and bragging. The way Vilches was acting made Moore lose his temper, no matter how hard he tried to stay calm. It was hard for them to get along, and Moore's anger was clear when he called Vilches a sex freak. Vilches' career took off when she got the part of Tattoo on the hit TV show Fantasy Island. That being said, his victory was short-lived. In 1984, he was fired for acting badly around female cast and team members who were arguing about pay. In a sad turn of events, Vilches killed himself in 1993 because he was unhappy. Roger Moore and Frank Sinatra were together for a long time and had a lot of interesting life together. Sinatra is a well-known name in the entertainment business. Even though both Sinatra and Moore were known for having an engaging presence and a polished film persona, their meetings were anything but simple. Moore remembers the first time he saw Sinatra during a heated argument at Hollywood's Moulin Rouge in the 1950s. Gordon MacRae, who worked as a contract artist for Warner Brothers, took $1,000 from Jack Warner, in charge of Warner Brothers and very strong. No matter what, the famous cowboy John Wayne offered MacRae $2,000 to stop singing. Sinatra has always been there for MacRae, so he saw this as an attack on their friendship and talked to Wayne about it. Moore was deeply moved by Sinatra's quiet but passionate protest against Wayne. In the middle of the 1960s, 10 years after the first meeting, Moore's group ran into Sinatra again, but this time in a more laid-back setting, an eatery in London. Sinatra's wife at the moment, Mia Farrow, was there. She looked beautiful and young. Moore was shocked when Farrow told him how much she liked Moore's TV show, The Saint. She yelled about how much they loved watching The Saint in their hotel room, and Sinatra nodded again to show that they agreed. This unexpected comment showed a different side of Sinatra, one that was friendlier and easier to talk to than the first time they met. Even so, they did have some problems in their partnership. Moore couldn't help but bring up the interesting and possibly false idea that Sinatra had ties to the mob. The answer Sinatra gave was clear and helpful. He didn't say that the mob didn't have power over some of the places where he played. People always thought Sinatra had ties to the criminal underground. It looked like he even looked forward to the interesting risk they offered. Moore said that Sinatra didn't openly deny the rumors, which meant that he probably knew they were true and that they helped him. Sinatra's ties to the mafia became a big part of his mystery, whether it was through the venues he chose or the people he hung out with. Who Moore was lucky enough to meet in person. In the mid-1960s, Roger Moore met the famous Bette Davis at the ABPC Studios diner during his lunch break. At this exact moment, Bette Davis showed up at Moore's table without being asked. She spoke up for herself with confidence and, as always, praised Moore's work on The Saint. She talked about the show after watching it with her daughter, who became close with her, while she praised Moore. Moore said that hearing nice things about him from the famous actress made him happy. He even joked that he felt like he had less hair to hide. Moore asked Bette to go to the dog races at West London's White City Stadium with him, and Robert Wagner as their friendship grew. Bette could show off her lively and charming personality by going on the trip. Moore did, however, see a dark side to her personality. Moore felt uneasy around Bette's bossy personality, which he swore he would never meet. During dinner, she often spoke in a demanding way to her helper. Moore also knew a lot about Bette's famous fight with Joan Crawford because they were friends. Another famous person from Hollywood. Bette's feelings for Franchot one led to the fight. Franchot went on to marry Joan Crawford twice. Still making Bette mad after they got split, Crawford kept seeing Tone while he fought with Bette.